Hello, everyone. My name is Tatiana Alvarez Thomas, and this is my older adult oral video presentation for Social Work 501. For my presentation, I selected emerging adulthood as my topic. So emerging adulthood can also be called young adulthood, and basically it's the years between 18 and 40 years old. During this time frame, development and growth are seen physically, mentally, and emotionally. There are major features that are indicative of emerging adulthood. So one of the things that happens during emerging adulthood is identity exploration. There's also instability, a feeling of uncertainty, self-focus, feeling in between, so feeling lost because you feel like you're not an adolescent anymore, but you're not quite adult, and a sense of possibilities and hope for the future. Emerging adulthood is mainly found in highly developed Western countries, and this is where most people normally have a higher level of education, so like college, and this is normally, again, between the ages of 18 to 40. So there are different variations of early adulthood within different countries. In Europe, it tends to last longer, whereas in other countries that are a little less developed, it lasts a little bit shorter. Again, self-focus is a theme, and the finding of freedom during emerging adulthood is also a high. It is a big theme, but also it's the freedom and the balance that of obligations that happen at this time. Also at this time is the battle for independence and to be seen and taken seriously. So this creates a unique situation for parents who have to navigate how to see their children differently. In the article, "If you want me to treat you like an adult, start acting like one," that I used for my annotated bibliography, it was found through a study with college students and their parents that criterion for what makes a person an adult was seen very differently when it compares to what children see as making them an adult to what adults see and need to see to feel like their children are adults. So to conduct this study, the facilitators polled college students via the internet, and then once their survey was completed, it was a long series of questions. The adults were sent a link, the parents of the children were sent a link, and they completed their portion. So in the end, again, it was very non-conclusive as to what it really meant for them to be an adult and what it took for them to see their children as adults. And basically it just showed that everybody disagrees on those qualifications. So for my project, I specifically interviewed Mark Tadero, which is my coworker. So to go over his some things that happened in his life, he graduated from high school. He received a full scholarship to medical school, proposed and married his high school sweetheart, joined the military, had 3 children, and changed military jobs. He also received many promotions and was a leader in various different forms on base. He played a very prominent role on the base and helped create lots of legislation and regulation to help students, military students, have better education and quality schooling and instruction. So according to Erickson, people need to be able to resolve some sort of conflict while going through different stages in life. So people who are successful in resolving the conflict of intimacy versus isolation, which is what emerging adulthood is, they are able to develop deep, meaningful relationship with other people. They have close and lasting romantic relationships, but they also forge strong relationships with family and friends. And I believe that Mark Tadero was able to successfully go through emerging adulthood. And here's why. Throughout emerging adulthood, Mark has many challenges, but he also had many accomplishments. So a big challenge for Mark was to be separated from his family. His separation from his family was due to his career choices. So Mark, in the beginning, he started to go to college. He proposed to his high school sweetheart, and they were together. He accepted a full-ride scholarship to medical school, and he was going there. But then he decided to turn down the scholarship and then go to the military. His father at first was very angry at him because he was going to be one of the first people in his family to go to college and be a doctor and etc. So that was a little bit of a struggle, and his father, he was mad, but he understood because Mark comes from a long line of military background. Everybody has pretty much been in the military on his father's side and on his mother's side. So again, being separated from family was very hard, but it was something that he understood because he was familiar with military background. It was just hard navigating his role as a father. Career choices and promotions. So this was a challenge and an accomplishment. At the time, it was hard to move your way up, and it was almost like somebody had to die for you to get to a new position in the military, because it was just how it was structured. So in order to advance to his highest potential, Mark had to really play the game and pay attention to what his wants and what his needs were. His biggest need was to provide for his family, so he let that guide his choices for a career. As much as he loved being a medic, which he was for a pretty long time, he knew that in order for him to be able to provide for his family the way he wanted to, that he would have to change his MOS and take a different route, which he did. He became an instructor and eventually the commandant of the schoolhouse at Fort Indian Town Gap. In doing that and his journey there, he did again have to spend lots of time away from his family, but he was able to provide for his family the way he needed to, and he felt the way he wanted to and the way he felt he needed to. By doing that, Mark was able to build his own home from scratch on his own land, and he was able to cultivate it and build his own garden, and he still produces lots and lots of fruits and vegetables for his own family. And then he was also able to hunt and provide meat as well. So he was really able to provide for them, and he never really had to worry about the food that was going to be on his table because he was able to raise a lot of it himself. So when we're talking about psychological crises, intimacy versus isolation, again, that's what I've been talking about as being classified as emerging adulthood. That is the main value and goal that you're supposed to learn during this time period. To successfully complete that and resolve that conflict, it is said that you have to be able to have strong and deep romantic relationships, close friendships with friends and family. If you are seen to have failed to resolve the conflict, it would be, you would see poor romantic relationships, no deep intimacy, loneliness, and isolation. So success in these areas leads to strong relationships, while failures leads to loneliness and isolation. So adults who struggle with this stage often experience poor romantic relationships, and they might never share a deep, meaningful relationship with a partner. They might even struggle to develop any type of relationships that are deeper than just superficial acquaintanceships. This can be difficult as these individuals watch friends and acquaintances begin to fall in love or get married and start families, because that will pull them into feeling more isolated. Those who struggle to form intimate and meaningful relationships with others often are left feeling just so lonely and isolated. And some may feel lonely if they struggle to form close relationships with others, on top of their lack of intimate relationships. So it's important that they're learning to be open, and that people are learning to share themselves with others. It's an important part of intimate versus isolation stage. And some of the important tasks that can play a huge role in the success or the failure of this development is, again, sharing parts of yourself with others, but also when you're sharing yourself with others, maintaining a strong sense of self. So being intimate is more than just engaging in sexual activity. It also means forging and maintaining emotional intimacy and closeness with others, but also keeping boundaries that will help you maintain your self-identity. So intimacy does not necessarily always have to be sexual with a partner. People can be intimate with friends and other loved ones, and basically by making commitments to others, there's intimacy that is developing there. So a part of being able to form these relationships involves being able to commit themselves to others for a long term. Long term, it will helps build commitment, and commitment leads to trust and caring and love and intimacy. So relationships are important, and getting love is important at this stage, but also so is giving it. Giving and receiving love is crucial during this stage of development. So facilitating factors that helped Mark through this stage was the idea that he had a strong sense of family and a strong sense of faith. And that comes from his background, from his upbringing. In his childhood, he had a very great and large family. And I believe that this was a huge contributing factor as to why he was able to resolve his crisis of intimacy versus isolation, because he was taught many different values that helped ground him in his decision making. Also, he was brought up Lutheran, and he maintained his faith through most of his life up until emerging adulthood. He did share that he had a brief period where he did not attend church often because he had an unfortunate experience in the church at training. But he did get back on the bandwagon, and as he said, and he is happy with his faith, and he says that is a huge factor into his success. An inhibiting factor of him being able to create and maintain relationships during emerging adulthood was the military. So he got married shortly after high school, and he went away to school, and then he came back and he married his high school sweetheart, but then he joined the military, and he was gone for large bits of time to go to school